everybody. We are here at TFcon 2017 in Toronto. We're at the end of the show. It's the evening. We've all eaten dinner. We're all full of probably meat. I don't know.
It is Toronto. Who knows?
And we're talking to David White of various fames, but the one that's most forward on my mind is Mecha Zone. It's a 3D printed and art book kind of mecha design project.
Right. It's all about the mechs.
Yeah, it's multimedia. And of course, the reason I got to know your work was I was relating it actually, I think, on the podcast panel. It's a couple years ago. Just as I was starting to see stuff about your work is when I think it was, I forgot who messaged who.
Well, people have been telling me about you, and so I contacted you to see if you wanted something to review, you know, just to help get the word out.
Yeah, and I was like, I think I had literally like just heard about you on another Facebook group.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you contacted me, I was like, well, let me just go look into this guy's work, and I looked at it, and it's like, well, this looks really cool.
Thanks.
So that's when I put on my professional face, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I guess I'd be interested in doing a quick little product review.
If I have to. Let me slum it a little.
And I remember when that printed on Fang came in, picked up the mail, and then I went to have a hot dog at a gourmet hot dog place with my buddy Ian. And while we were there, I was like, well, let's crack this open, take a look. And then, like, Fang in photos to me, having not seen one before, I thought, for some reason, it was going to be about this big.
Everybody thinks it's 3 3/4 inch.
Yeah.
Everybody.
And I popped it open, and it's like this handful of robot, and it's really thick. First time I had seen acetone vapor treatment.
Oh, sorry, that's what she said.
It was extra thick. And that's also part of why I keep thinking acetone's so magical, because it was also in a cloud of hot dog.
Just the hot dog fumes.
Hot dog spittle going all over it, right? Okay.
And yeah, ever since then, I've been really enjoying following your work. And
Thanks.
so ecstatic that you made it out to TFcon.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. It's been awesome.
Yeah, you had a table in the artist alley.
Yep.
And it sounds like it went really well. Like I put a review together of hey, this little dude, because I thought most of your bodies now are following this as kind of the main buck, and I know, having looked at your stuff and having shown other people your stuff, you don't immediately think it's going to be a very articulate thing. So I wanted to get it very clear, you know, to my own viewing audience at least, many of whom are coming out here, that it's a playable toy. And I thought, oh man, sure hope things sell. I'm going to go pick up that Shockwave when the dealer room opens.
Nope.
So I amble my way through the dealer room like, oh, let's go see what David's doing. Like, what, 3 of them were gone already?
Oh yeah, right away. So that was great.
Yeah, it sounds like you had a pretty good time.
I had a good time, and it's funny that you mentioned that people don't think they're going to be articulated, because it's actually hard to get people to pick them up, because they think they're going to be so delicate they don't even want to touch them.
With Fang.
Like, I know.
That's one of the reasons I did that toss test, because I was like, this is the best way I can communicate how much this thing was about 10 times the in-hand density of what I expected. And Aaron, you picked up one of the buggies.
Yeah, I picked up one of the buggies and had busted it out a couple times down at the staff dinner area, and people were like, "Oh, what's that?" And they were handling it with kid gloves again.
Gloves, right?
And I'm like, "No, it's a figure. You can mess with it." And then somebody was working a wheel enough that it like popped off, and it was just the look of terror. I'm like, "No, just slap it back together." Like,
yeah.
What? Oh, well, yeah, this is really meant to be played with, isn't it? I'm like, yeah, that's I think the point of having toys, but.
And you mentioned that in the first video you did, where I take it to parties, I let kids play with it, and I'm like, try to break it. Yeah. I give it to my wife, and she tries to break it. She's usually pretty good at that. And then I put it back together, you know, and I find out what needs to be re-engineered until it's as sturdy as I can make it.
Right.
Well, and for all the downsides of being like there are probably downsides of being a one-man operation running off of a series of Affinia printers like out of your studio, but one of the upsides is probably that you could do this kind of product testing, right? Because it's like, no, go ahead, break it. I'll print another piece back at home.
It happens, and iteration is ongoing. So even after I do a release, the next time it comes out, it might be different. Like I do the legs completely different.
And that's definitely a strength for you for additive manufacturing methods, the 3D printing, because it's a whole lot easier to like tweak something. It's not having to do the rounds and have somebody go hit a mold with a chisel for a little bit to make that part bigger. And
there's no middleman, no communication error. I do everything, so I know what's going on.
And it also, I found, I mean, granted, it's your time still, but, you know, given infinite time, you're able to avoid the one major pitfall of designer toys, which is usually there aren't that many copies, and when it's come and gone, it's gone.
Gone, right.
Whereas in your case, and like I had to communicate super loud in the comment section of the last video, if it says it's sold out, go look at his commission listing for like another $10. He'll just make one on order for you
in any color they want.
Yeah, and like that, and the fact that you can also upscale your prints.
Right.
Again, it's a massive time sink, so of course it's not costless.
Yeah,
but
has its expense.
Yeah, you're able to experiment. You're able to. There's a certain risk-freeness if you ignore the part where it all takes a lot of time.
Yeah, well, no, I can agree with that because I can just make another one.
Yeah.
As long as I have the material. One problem I do have is they stop making certain colors or a company goes out of business. The orange on the original Explorer is different than the one on the Assembler, just slightly, because they stopped making it, and I had to find a new
Better
supplier.
go get the Pantone books and pull it up to each other.
We might have one of those.
Yeah, in 3D printing, we talked about this before. I'll just bring up the anecdote again. A year or two ago, I was talking to Vengsta and a guy from AFI Design, who were both producing some. Well, AFI was producing 3D printed little accessory parts, like add-on parts, and Vengsta, of course, does a lot of his prototyping now in a 3D printer before he moves on to his hand-cast resin.
Right.
And so I asked the two of them. I was like, what's up with support material and scrap material? Is there any kind of recycle, or is that it? And they both gave me this look going, no, that's it. Also, guess like what one of the biggest bummers of the medium is the sheer amount of waste produced.
Right.
So do you feel like, I'm spitballing here, so Aaron, you should jump in if you know.
Okay.
Is there any, I guess, hope of turning scrap material from this style of 3D printing into anything usable after the fact?
I think it depends on which material you're using, because there's the resin from the SLA laser printers. Then I use ABS, and there's also PLA. I don't know anything about recycling PLA, but supposedly it's more bio-friendly, like it'll degrade a lot faster than ABS. So ABS, I don't know a way to recycle
like I said,
it right
I do know that with ABS, there is a...
Like you can pay somebody,
you can
right?
pay someone to do it, but there is a pelletization... or I know I've seen somebody talking about a pelletization one where...
Oh, they do make those, yes, absolutely.
Right, the way that like Hasbro and Lego and everybody does their ABS doesn't come off of a spool. They get a truck full of little tiny blue pellets and they feed it into a hopper in a mill, and
that's
when they need
injection
blue,
molding though.
Right, but it's still pelletized ABS plastic, and so there. I know that I had seen one or two places that were talking about trying to do that.
They exist.
To
the
come
last
to a
time
smaller
I saw
scale.
It was like $1,000,
But,
so
yeah,
maybe it was $600. It was a lot. It was out of my price range.
Yeah, it was still working more towards the pro side of the prosumer stuff that all of the desktop 3D printers are in a realm of, where it starts to get more towards like maybe small scale industrial would be using it versus...
you would need a lot of plastic just to make it worthwhile, because it's basically a bin and an auger and a hot end.
You've got a big auger, the hot end, and then you're going to need to recycle. You'd need like a shredder to
get
once you've made the thing and the print's no good, or this is your support material. You'd have to then chunk it back up into something that's pelletized to be able to run it again.
Yeah, so that
and for somebody
possible, but it's not practical.
Yeah, for somebody in your application, it wouldn't really be practical.
And it feels like that's one of, certainly not but it's one of the roadblocks still for like mass consumer 3D printing. That and having a speedy print of the thing I want, like in Star Trek. But it's so cool to see like what the stuff's capable of. Like, I want to just take a brief step away from the medium and just go onto the design side of things. For those who don't know, like when you create one of these figures, like you're working on it from the like ink on paper level, right? You should one could say of like just that level of design, and that's also like been part of your vocation for a while. Like you have quite a body of work.
Thanks. I trained in art college, so I learned dimensional illustration and shapes, color theory, drawing, painting, everything, animation, armature making, monster effects and molds, and I learned it all. So then I got a job doing video games, and I learned how to computer model, like low poly stuff. So you put all those together, and there's the toy.
Yeah, there's something cool about the part where like the line art is almost, it's like, to simplify it, it's almost like you fed your line art into CAD. Because you know how to use CAD, just stick the wire in your brain. But like, since you know how to use that program, those programs, you're able to in a way, translate that work, into a 3D model that still accurately represents the basis of the design.
It's not going through another person's style. Like a modeler often has their own style, a little bit of tweaking here and there. So I keep it very pure to what I conceived in the beginning.
And for the Transformers folks, like you did some Transformers design on was it one of the DS games?
Yeah, it was Transformers War for Cybertron, the Nintendo DS version. They had an Autobot and a Decepticon version, which is weird, but I did several for each. I did the Dinobots before they were in the actual PlayStation 4 version, so they just threw them out. But they were in that game. It's like Cyclonus, Swoop, Grimlock. We did a Blue Streak who didn't get used, but then Andrew Griffith retooled him into Prowl for the comics. It was really cool to see that show up.
Yeah.
And they did some other stuff that never got released. I can't even think of what they were called. But I did like 8 or 9 total. It was fun.
Well, in the case of like the characters, because I remember the DS games had a much wider cast than the console game did. And to see some of the Dinobots like then become like this huge focus in the sequel, like what was that like? Was that kind of like a blink moment? Like I thought we did that already, or
no? Because I think it's High Moon Studios. Are they the ones that did it? Their concept artists were top notch. I really respected them, and I had to work in their style. So it's only natural, I think, when you do a big project for PlayStation, which is multi-million dollars. Dozens and dozens of people. They want that to be the best. So they have their guys do it, and they put it in their style. I thought that was perfectly natural.
Cool. Yeah, we have talked to Matt Teacher from High Moon a couple times before. Unfortunately, a lot of their staff were let go because I think it was the Deadpool game that kind of ended up sinking them.
Yeah, they had a lot of talent there.
Yeah, they're still around, but now, last I checked, they were one of those studios you farm out your Call of Duty maps to.
We were that kind of studio when I made computer games. We worked on MechWarrior 4, and we worked through Microsoft. We did Neverwinter Nights and lots of stuff. Really, some. It was totally spacing on what it was called. But the orcs from the recent movie Warcraft, we did Warcraft expansions and things. We did our own games too, but we did a lot of that, and it's sort of gap filler.
Yeah. Do you feel like because I've talked to people who are in PR who moved from game PR to toy PR in the last 5 years or so, just at New York Comic Con. What do you feel like when you look at like the state of the video game world right now, where there's it feels like compared to maybe 10 years ago, there's more of a respect for the artist in video games, or at least a little more care about the artist on the I guess the indie games level?
It'd have to be the indie games level. I think it's gotten less for the major titles.
Oh yeah, that chasm has definitely opened up, where it's either the artist name is on the front or it's just a studio name.
Right, it's usually the studio. So for the smaller ones, I mean, it's usually just like 3 people making it. So of course, they're like, I did this, and you got to respect that. But then it takes so many years. I mean, think of Kickstarter. I back games all the time, and how many of them have I actually gotten over the last 8 years? Maybe like 2.
Yeah.
And how many of them have I been happy with? I don't know.
It's either 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Maybe 0.
Or maybe 0. No. Oh man, there was the one for the PlayStation. Yeah, you guys got me. I'm tired. I'm sorry. I'm tired.
No.
But there's one that I have on the PS4 where you're this dude. You wake up in front of a fire, and it's alternate world. I want to say it's by Heart Machine, but that might not be true. And you get to dart around, and you got the sword, and it's cool.
Do you feel like, cause I always feel like video games, because they started as an electronic toy, I always look at the video game world as not like a parallel, but I feel like video games are almost like, they often feel like a place that toys as a medium, how do I put this, they're not lagging behind, but whenever I see video games, I always feel like toys are always about like 5 steps just behind, or they remind me of where video games felt like they were, some time ago, both in the coverage and in just like the state of the medium itself. And so I always try to think about like parallels between designer-driven games and what I feel like is the growing world of designer-driven toys. Certainly not a new world. Designer-driven toys have been around for a while, but I certainly think in like 2017 it's a lot more of a thing than it was before.
Yeah, it's tough because the audiences for toys and video games are not really the same. I mean, toys have declined in popularity. Video games have gone up as people have the digital media all the time. Kids don't even buy toys anymore half the time, or books. They're just playing on their iPads. So I think money is probably a factor in that. Like, where do you want to put your advertising money? Where are you going to make the most money? And games are more popular.
It's telling that like Toys to Life toys are some of the best-selling toys in the last while. Like Amiibos, Skylanders, Lego Dimension, like.
Oh yeah, but that's all
the toys that literally tie into a video game.
There you go. Yeah, the multimedia experience. But that's clever marketing. They probably had all these skilled artists or people who were thinking that way. They had a production pipeline. They had factories on call, and they're like, well, we want to keep people employed. We want to keep using these skill sets. So how can we meld them together?
Well, and this just goes back to part of the reason why I'm so interested in the stuff you do, because it was a year or two ago, I was at a panel where someone who was in the toy industry had mentioned that he saw, a potential, 5-10 year future of toys being that a lot of it is collector-driven and primarily driven by people who are able to do their own self-manufacturing, like 3D rapid prototyping.
Right.
So, how do you feel about that? Like, do you feel like stuff like your Mecha projects, like maybe are what could still be around even when the greater toy industry maybe starts to really fall in on itself? Like people who produce their own things, like very creator-driven, smaller runs but creator-driven toys.
I think that those types of toys can still be around because they don't need to be so successful. I can make 10, and that's cool. I can do it whenever. I don't have to make 10,000 of them to make the cost justifiable. So yeah, that can still be around. Will mine be around? I'll have to work hard to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
That's the thing. How many of this body type are you going to buy? Like I'm working on a new Predator, the bad guys now, hopefully for DesignerCon. You just got to keep going. So it might still be the same property, but I don't think you can let it just stagnate.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Fresh.
Like I when it comes to indie toys, like someone else, it's always worth looking to is whatever Matt Dowdy's doing with his Glyos projects, because certainly an indie toy line has been around since like what 07. If I remember correctly. Like
he has that Gly armor that adds a whole new dimension now, and capes in the last release. It's really great.
Yeah, like something that can have consistent production quality, consistent numbers, and also feels always like it's a completely different line than it was 5 years ago.
Right, and think what he does with the same tooling, but just color apps.
Yeah,
and I don't even know how he comes up with all those because he's already done every color. There are only so many, right?
Yeah,
and he keeps coming up with fresh and interesting things, and he's done some homages recently to the old adventure people. He had a series of 5, like the Brainoid was so cool, and he keeps people engaged, and he knows his audience, so he plays to that, which any toy designer, movie maker, anybody would do. So it's cool stuff.
Well, on the same vein, how do you feel about what I would think of as maybe the other end of designer-driven toys, that being Kickstarted lines? Easy examples, Vitruvian hacks or stuff the Four Horsemen are doing.
Right, the Four Horsemen stuff's so gorgeous.
Yeah, they just recently said, hey, we're going to finally get a warehouse. It's like, I bet you could have done that a little while ago.
Well, they had some, I don't know if they had production problems, but they had time lag, right? A lot of time between the things. And I don't keep up on those too much. There are so many that don't even make it, so you gotta appreciate when they do. Oh, but it was Hyper Light Drifter was that game.
Oh. Yeah.
I backed that, and I'm very happy with that game. But I haven't seen too much of the Vitruvian hacks. I mean, I'm familiar with it. And there's that Velociraptor sort of...
Oh, yeah, Mesozoic era.
Mesozoic area.
Yeah.
So that's great. And then there's some others that failed Kickstarter.
There's a Street Fighter line.
The Morphonauts. That guy, actually, I think he just had them produced anyway. I saw that he had them in stock. I don't know how it's going, but they're magnetic, like the old Commander-style Micronauts, the Commander cars and stuff. So I think it's great. You just have to be really honest about the pricing. Most people don't understand. Can I see the figure?
Yeah, for sure.
So the figure, this has an accessory add-on, but just the figure itself, from general estimates, tooling just to make the mold for this would be $25,000 and up. Right? That's not manufacturing, that's not shipping, that's not production of the actual final model, because my model would have to be remodeled to work with it. So who has that kind of money?
That was actually going to be one of my questions. Do you feel like you have any interest in a crowdsourced model for some kind of expansion?
I would love to do it. Okay. I'm just not confident that I can get that kind of money, because I see so many of those Kickstarters fail. And good Kickstarters, Could I? I don't know. I'd love to try sometime, but it's just a lot of work.
Do you feel like you have any interest in collabing with some of the other indie toy artists out there? Like, again, because he's collabed with a gigantic number of people, like Glyos stuff is always first to mind. But are there any toy folks that you'd like to try doing a project with?
Well, I've seen 1000 Toys do some collaborations with Toy Pizza.
Yeah.
And Real Head from Japan. Whoa, that stuff, that's serious. But they're an actual company doing factory-produced stuff. So as far as indie people go, I have my buddies Prometheum 5 and Brown Noise.
They were next on my list to bring up.
Yeah. So collaborating with cool guys like that who have good ideas and similar interests is cool. I would do that.
Yeah, I wanted to bring them up because like I realized, and I don't think a lot of people know this, but like when I found out about you, it was hard at the time to find out about you without also finding out about Brown Noise and Prometheum 5. And they do also really cool work.
Yeah.
It was kind of just your work aesthetically and in a tactile sense clicks with me the most. And I actually feel really bad that like I don't bring up their stuff as much because they do really cool stuff as well.
But one of the differences is they have day jobs.
Yeah.
And I don't. I'm a freelance illustrator, but I'm able to devote more time to it, and I really make an effort to do toy lines, and they still produce stuff, but I put way more time into it. So I think it's just a matter of being prolific, and it forces through more iterations, so you kind of get that design style. Plus, I do exhaustive sketches, you know, really, to get that design. I probably did 15 or 20 different body designs and maybe 30 different heads. I really worked through it. I really tried to refine it, and that's that time factor again.
Right.
I had the time to do that.
Yeah.
And it pays off.
And also like different focuses, right? Like especially by the time you've hit this body, like you are going for something that feels like a very modern toy, whereas like
I tried to update this so it didn't have as much of that homage feel that the other versions had.
Yeah. Whereas like Brown Noise, like I thought it was really cool. Like I remember following his blog, and he's like, I finally have designed basically like the Shogun Warrior rocket punch in 3D
It's
printing.
cool.
Yeah, I'm like that's still amazing.
I think he calls that line the Shogun Voyager. I know he has some smaller ones.
It's like the buzzsaw thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gin, I think it's called. From, Grendizer was one of the main enemies.
Yeah. That stuff is all worth looking up, by the way, to the people checking out this.
I hope I'm saying that right. I'm sorry if I'm not.
No worries. Just I guess we should probably start one. And then Aaron, I've kind of talked.
No, I was just sitting here thinking about the point that you were talking about, how I think it was a BotCon a couple of years ago where somebody had asked about 3D printing, and I think on the Hasbro side they were talking about that, and then shortly afterwards they had the Allspark Forge
that copyright
thing, the copyright that looked like they were doing a 3D printing thing, which then kind of took my mind to you with your models. And you know, we made the joke down on the floor like, hey, you can just send me these models. What if you could have like a DRM protected model where you could send it off and it's only good for one verified print, and for like $3,
right?
Get the money out. Get the money out. Would that change your mind?
That would change my mind if they could get people to support it.
Right.
There was a service that did that. I wrote an article for them. I'm trying really hard to remember who they were.
I think I remember what you're talking about, and I don't remember their name.
And they had a DRM through their website where you could pay. And there's a problem with this, in that there's so much free stuff already available.
Why pay?
Why pay? I put up some of my mini mechs, the little ones. They were like literally just $1 or $3 or something, and it was a one-time. You download it, the software controlled the DRM, and you could print it and do it. And I never sold a single one.
Oh.
Yeah. Because there's everything else you could want.
I mean, that's almost the YouTube argument, right? Like, there is a paywall you can turn on any YouTube video, but unless you have something magic,
right?
Like,
it's got to be incredibly magic.
I've had the conversation about review videos with family before, and they're like, "Oh, why don't you charge for your videos? They're so good, or whatever." And I'm like, because they're not good enough that someone's not going to just click over to the 500 other people that do it for free and often just as well. You know, like
it's tough. It's really tough.
I wanted to throw in there, by the way, if you do ever have the opportunity to collab with Sentinel, you totally should, because they seem like cool people.
They're wicked cool people. Like Yusuf Sobari and I just hit it off great. We met at 5 Points Fest in New York City, and I'm going to see him again at DesignerCon in LA. So that's going to be exciting. And I'm not implying that there's any collaboration going on at all.
Oh, no.
But if they wanted to, I would be all over that.
When you were sharing on social media that like he bought a figure off of you and was digging it like that.
Yeah.
As someone who is watching this from afar, that still seemed really cool, because I'm quite a fan of Sentinel.
Yeah. They were all great. They had the whole gang there, and they were all great.
Tell him I'm a fan when you see him next time.
Tell him I'm a fan. I'll show him a picture and I'll put a little heart on there.
Yeah.
And I give it to him. He won't know what's going on. It was funny. But we had my Jumbo Epsilon. If you've seen the Epsilon buggy, it's like a Blaster Master homage. And I made a triple size one that's 3 3/4 scale, so a G.I. Joe figure will fit in there. And he was across the aisle, and we were rolling it back and forth to each other while we were there. You want to talk about a nerd, mega nerd time? That was great. Where else would I do that?
Yeah,
and, yeah, that was fun.
Man, well, we are hitting that mark where we should probably start winding down. But it's been a huge pleasure to talk to you on record. I had a few other bullet points in my head of things I'd love to have recorded being said. For instance, here's one. Nothing wrong with artists who give out their CADs themselves. However, should you ever walk up to an artist and say, hey, send me your CAD?
Yeah. The CAD, no way. The CAD is literally the modeling file. That would just be ridiculous.
Like, that's borderline backhandable.
Yeah, that is.
On record. There we go.
Giving me your STLs is also just as bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Even offering to pay for them, for most people, I guess, is okay. They put them on Shapeways, and they can print the file that way without having to get the STLs. But for me, I want my craft in these figures. You know, I take my time to make them just the way I want. I make sure the joint tension is right, the materials are strong, the finish is good. So to me,
well, especially since you do other processes to it before the end, because you've got paint on a lot of these. You do your vapor bath to smooth it out a whole lot. That, you know, Joe Schmo at home isn't going to do that, or they're going to just drop it in the acetone and then have sludge and all that stuff.
Well, to close up, let's say we got someone watching this who has an idea and they want to pursue it and they're worried about it. Like, what would you say to someone who's like, I have an idea and I want to make a toy and I'm worried that, you know, it's going to be real tough.
It's going to be real tough. I would say learn how to 3D model. If you don't, that's usually the #1 hurdle. You can afford to buy a 3D printer. They're easy to figure out. You probably have an idea, you can doodle it down, or you have a friend who can doodle it. But 3D modeling and actually getting the idea into a usable shape that can be sent to the printer is the #1 hurdle. So I use Blender. That's a really big question for people, which is free. Watch a lot of YouTube videos, figure out how to use it. It's kind of tough. It has a weird interface, but it's very capable. So there you go. Free software, download it, spend a few months watching YouTube videos and learn it.
Cool. Well, yeah, that's all for me. Aaron, you want to like text your buddy? You want to keep that fight going?
No, I'm just gonna take it and drop it on his desk.
Boom.
That's the first thing I asked him when I saw he actually bought one. I was like, "Are you just gonna go find that guy you were texting?" There was a thing where Aaron has a friend who is in 3D printing stuff, and Aaron got to be the middleman between
with some brand arguments.
I was intentionally goading him just
waiting
to see
for
what would
Jets
happen.
and Sharks moment to come.
So I was like, are you just going to walk up to him, just plunk it on his desk and go like, Affinia?
Yeah. I do like my Affinia printers. They're very good.
Yeah. And
reliable.
David White has got a YouTube page with a review.
Oh, that's right, I do.
You've also got
Mechazone.
Mechazone on YouTube. Mechazone on Instagram. Mechazone on Twitter.
On Twitter?
That's some of that on-brand social media use.
Yeah, I have a DeviantArt account too, where I go once a week and just delete all of the notifications and then close the tab. Yeah.
Oh, so usual DeviantArt use.
Usual DeviantArt use, yeah.
Well, cool. Thanks for spending some time with us. Thanks for putting up with our nonsense.
That was fun.
And thanks for bringing your stuff down to TFcon. Hope to see you again.
Yep, I hope so too. Thanks a lot.
Excellent.